It made me cry.
This one's wife. Your bath salt recipe burned me. I will sue. Hello, I'm H.G. Tudor. Bad news for this one's wife. It's alleged that her bath salt recipe has caused burns and unpleasant cosmetic consequences for somebody who copied her recipe. You'll recall that in the early episodes of With Love, Meghan, this one's wife took it upon herself to create, using Epsom salts and essential oils, some bath salts for the crying makeup artist Daniel Martin when he stayed over. I'm sure you, like me, invariably think that whenever you stay over at somebody's house, the first thing that you need to do is get in their bathtub, draw a bath, and chuck in some bath salts. Isn't this what we all do when we go to stay at somebody's house? We don't bother taking a shower. We think to ourselves, I'll clamber into your bathtub. After all, I don't want to spend any time with you. I want to sit in the bath. And I'm not particularly concerned about the hygiene of your bathroom. I'll clamber in anyway. Indeed. Such preposterousness, but that is entirely applicable when it comes to this one's wife, that she thinks that the first thing that a guest will want to do is have a bath when they stay over, and thus she makes some bath salts. Now, some astute viewers at the time pointed out that you have to be careful when you put these ingredients together because there is a risk that they could burn people, that they could cause harm to their skin. And lo and behold, their observations turned out to be somewhat prophetic. For as reported by Mike Boyce in Radar Online, a furious This One's Wife fan from Maryland has threatened to launch a $10 million lawsuit against the Duchess after suffering catastrophic burns using a homemade bath salt recipe from her new Netflix show. Oh dear, This One's Wife is going to have to sell more of the red goop in order to meet the costs of this lawsuit, perhaps. Robin Patrick is seeking major compensation after the bath salts caused significant pain and cosmetic distress. Diabetic Patrick said that This One's Wife had a duty of care to provide adequate warnings to viewers that the salts could have an adverse effect on people who carry the condition due, in part, to the essential oils used within the concoction. She watched the clip of This One's Wife making the bath salt gift from her With Love, Meghan series on X, and copied the instructions using ingredients available at home. The Duchess made the welcome gift for makeup artist Daniel Martin, and the recipe featured Epsom salt, Himalayan salt, arnica oil, and lavender oil. Since the episode aired, skincare experts warned the DIY blend may pose risks. Patrick later tested out the bath salts herself, dissolving the mixture into warm water in her walk-in bathtub. But she soon began to feel immediate discomfort and knew something was wrong. Patrick said, "Initially, I experienced a mild tingling sensation without discomfort. However, as the water level rose to cover my legs and reach my buttocks, I began to feel burning and significant discomfort in those areas. I immediately exited the tub, stopped the water, and later stirred the bath water with my right hand and arm to assess the mixture." She continued, "This resulted in additional burning sensations on my hand and arm. After draining the tub, I applied Gold Bond lotion, which provided no relief, followed by lidocaine sprays, which temporarily alleviated the pain. That evening, while showering, I experienced intense burning as water contacted the affected areas, which had developed into ulcers." Patrick claimed the alleged injuries are still giving her major discomfort. She added, "To date, the burns are still not healed and are quite uncomfortable. The others are just as sore as heck to touch. Since the incident, I have endured persistent burning, discomfort, and the emergence of new blister-like sores and ulcers daily. These symptoms have disrupted my daily and nightly routines, preventing me from taking warm showers or wearing clothing over the affected areas. As an individual with an autoimmune condition and compromised immune system, compounded by diabetes-related dry skin on my legs and feet, I am deeply concerned about the risk of infection, sepsis, or other complications. The pain feels as though it is burning from within." And pictures have been shared showing the various redness of the legs and what looked like burn marks across the calves and inside of the thighs. It looks rather unpleasant. And the description also corroborates the unpleasant pain that has been experienced by this individual. Patrick said she's willing to resolve the matter without litigation if a financial settlement can be reached. But if her demands are not met, she intends to launch the lawsuit seeking settlement damages of a minimum of $75,000 to cover medical expenses related to treatments of the alleged injuries, compensate for the pain and suffering experienced, plus pay for future costs stemming from the long-term effects of this injury, including infection or scarring. What's more, she's also seeking $10 million from This One's Wife, Netflix and Archwell Productions, who make the show, for their reckless disregard for public safety and to deter similar conduct in the future. Well, that's the position, and a threatening letter was sent stating these damages account for emotional distress, potential post-traumatic stress disorder, loss of confidence in appearance, disfigurement, shortened life expectancy, and long-term medical care for injuries that may worsen over time. Now, as you will appreciate, the threat of litigation against This One's Wife is naturally a threat to her control, not only in terms of saying that she's done something wrong, but also in respect of the issue of wanting money from her, because she is very money orientated. It is a residual benefit, and a demand made against her for money, along with suggesting she's done something wrong, is a double threat to control. This One's Wife, of course, is not that bright, and also she's rather reckless about the things that she says. Like many narcissists, she will say and do things in the moment without any due regard for the consequences to other people, because consequences to other people don't matter, because other people don't matter. Because she has no sense of accountability and no emotional empathy for them, this means that she will create a bath salt recipe without necessarily thinking about, could this be problematic, and issuing appropriate disclaimers. It's similar to the way that she tossed out about taking adaptogens when she was pregnant. It's the case that certain adaptogens shouldn't be taken at all, others should be taken in moderation and only with appropriate advice from a healthcare provider. But she made no distinction. So, for instance, it's the case that you shouldn't utilize rhodiola or ginseng or cordyceps or reishi. Those should be completely avoided during pregnancy. Ashwagandha and Shisandra could be utilized, but in moderate amounts. But This One's Wife didn't talk about that. She just tossed out, oh, I took adaptogens during pregnancy, and then wanks on about the effect of it all. This is typical of the reckless attitude of this particular narcissist and her devil-may-care attitude to the health of others. Now, returning to the potential lawsuit, it's already got to the stage that a letter before claim or a letter before action has been fired off. Now, I think that the claim may potentially have problems because, after all, she would have to prove, for she who alleges must prove, as plaintiff or claimant, that she followed the exact ingredient that was explained by This One's Wife, that she would have to show, I did as you demonstrated, and I did it in similar amounts, and I used the same ingredients that you suggested. Did she film that she'd done this? No, it'll just be her say-so, and it'll be for the appropriate judge or jury to determine whether she can be believed in that regard. Nevertheless, it has been taken somewhat seriously because lawyers have responded on the part of This One's Wife, a letter having been sent at the end of April from Cameron Straker to Robin Patrick, whose address is now all over the internet as a consequence of Radar Online printing that letter. The lawyer wrote, the use of Epsom salts, in response, the lawyer stated, "She should have been aware of the risks of taking the salts which contain ingredients unsuitable for people suffering from diabetes." He wrote, "The use of Epsom salts is contraindicated for individuals with diabetes except on the advice of a physician. As your letter recognises, a duty of care requires a foreseeable injury. It was not foreseeable that you would disregard the instructions on the Epsom salt packaging in attempting to make and use your own bath salts. For this separate reason, there can be no negligence claim against anyone involved in the production or distribution of the series." Accordingly, a swift rebuke there from Cameron Straker. And rather entertainingly, the response is rather typical of a narcissist. I'm not suggesting that Cameron Straker is one, but given the fact that the letter is there written on behalf of a narcissist, the response is typically narcissistic, which is, "It's your own fault. You brought it on yourself," which, as many of you know that have been involved with narcissists, is a common response of the narcissist by virtue of blame shifting. Whatever happens in relation to this lawsuit, its existence is not a good look for this one's wife, because it demonstrates not only a critical approach to the series with Love Meghan, but also identifies that she hasn't properly thought through what she has been doing, and, as many people pointed out, it presents a risk to people to follow what she has suggested. It demonstrates a haphazard approach, an absence of focusing on the detail, even though apparently she has a freakish attention to detail. It demonstrates that she ought to have issued some form of disclaimer. Now, I should imagine that this one's wife will have some form of indemnity from Netflix in relation to the show, and there may well be buried in the terms of use of watching something in Netflix that you are obligated not to follow what goes on screen. But there's a clear legal fight to be had, and moreover, it doesn't look good publicly for this one's wife. There you are, holding yourself out as being this doyenne of the kitchen, the queen of crafting, and one of the products that you create results in somebody suffering an injury and harm. Irrespective of where the fault might lie legally, most people will look at this and say, well, you ought to have issued some kind of warning, some kind of disclaimer. You could have just issued a sentence in the course of saying so, namely, you must check beforehand that you won't have an allergic reaction to the bath salts, because that can happen for some people. It's easy enough. Issue that warning, but she didn't. And the fact is that when she is seen creating something which is then alleged to have harmed somebody, it really does dent the reputation of her and her program. For the individuals who recognise that she's a narcissist, only cares about herself, it's just further grist to the mill. But either way, irrespective of whether she actually ends up having to make any kind of payment, which of course she will not like, the fact remains that criticism of this nature, where somebody has been injured copying what she has suggested and has been aired on a platform which many people have picked up on, is once again not a good look for this one's wife. It's a threat to her control and seeks to damage her facade. I'm H.G. Tudor. Thank you for listening.